Hey, hey, hey. We are getting everything loaded up here. Going live. And we are ready. Awesome. So, wherever you are watching from, welcome here or back, whichever one it is. This live stream is for the sole purpose of helping you to take action in improving yourself. What we do, and what I do, is that every day at 6 p.m. PST, I go through one key concept from my self-improvement book and share some reasons why people aren't utilizing that concept in their lives already, and also share a habit that they can implement in order to have that key concept benefit them. This week we are going over the book Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Absolutely phenomenal book. If you haven't read it, you gotta check it out. It's super, super, super good. This is actually my second time going through it, and I'm honestly not sure what time I got more out of it, whether it was the first or the second time. It's really, really good. And I'm excited to keep diving into it with you today. So, if you're here for a quick fix or just something like that, that's not going to be what this is. This is going to require effort. This is going to require attention. This is not going to be easy. Change never is. My name is Max Baldoff, and I am the creator of the Life Optimization Loop. It's a 10-step system that allows you to change anything within your control. And I teach it over in a self-improvement school that I've started. The link is in the bio if you want to check that out. But our purpose today, again, is to give you an actionable step that you can actually apply in your life for this. So, hello, friends from Nabati and Game King. This is about self-improvement and making it actually stick. We're going over a key concept from the book Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. It's a book about negotiation. He was the FBI's lead hostage negotiator, but really you could broaden negotiation to be just communication generally. It's an absolutely phenomenal read. Super, super helpful in helping you to know how to communicate. Happy birthday, Gabe Horn. Oh, that's funny. Haha. Okay. So we are going to jump into the book here. And just a little bit of background about me. I'm obsessed with change. That's really why I'm doing this, is because I'm obsessed with change, and I want to spend my whole life mastering it and mastering myself and trying to figure out what that looks like for me, and sharing the lessons that I learn along the way with others. So hopefully you guys take something from this. So today we are going over the key concept of active listening. And so essentially active listening is really it's pretty much what it sounds like. But just genuinely focusing your entire being on the other person and what they have to say. And that turns listening into a superpower. A lot of people, as I'm sure you know, happy birthday, Adam. Congrats on turning 19. But a lot of people, as I'm sure you know, when it comes to listening, they listen to respond and not really listen to understand. And that's something that we don't want to do. We do not want to just listen to understand. We don't want to just listen to respond. We want to listen to understand. So that way we can actually see others deeply and allow ourselves to be deeply seen as well. What's that quote? It's by David Brooks. There's a quote by David Brooks where he just says that there is a skill that a lot of the world lacks that would solve a lot of its problems. And that is the trait of being able to see others deeply and to be deeply seen. So, active listening, which we'll go over what that is and how you can have more of it today, allows you to accomplish that that goal of seeing others deeply and being able to see them for who they are and understand their perspective and apply it. So here we go. So let's turn this into a superpower. There are a few key things, six different key parts that make up active listening. And I want to go over them here. So the first one, and this is, if you want to follow along, it's on page 103 in Never Split the Difference, is the 6 key parts of active listening. So the first one is effective pauses. Silence is powerful. Use it for emphasis and to encourage others to keep talking until eventually, like clearing out a swamp, the emotions are drained from the dialogue. Thanks, Tommy. Appreciate you hitting the like button for the algorithm. Vince, you can like if you want to. I won't force you. I would appreciate it. Maybe wait until the end, see if you get some value from this, and then if you did, then you can like it, but up to you, bro. So effective pauses, silence being powerful. That's the first part of active listening, and it's super key. I'm not sure if you guys have ever had much experience with this, but I have found that it's super beneficial when I state something and then just wait. You give a lot. Oftentimes we think, thanks, Adam, appreciate it. A lot of times we think that people should have a response just like this, and they don't. Especially when you're having deeper conversations with someone, it is not only polite but also wise to give them time to think. And so if you ask someone a question and there is silence ensuing, that doesn't mean that you need to fill that silence with more words. It just means that you probably need to wait for a few seconds. I've even waited as much as 30 seconds to a minute in conversations without saying anything, adding anything additional, and just allowing people to process the question that you've asked and think about their answers. Oftentimes that's just what people need, is they need that space and that silence for their brains to process what has been said and think of an actual response. So very helpful in listening is just giving that pause, giving that silence. So then the second part of active listening is minimal encouragers. So these are phrases that can be used in conversation, and they're just very simple ones. So besides silence, we instruct using simple phrases such as yes, okay, uh-huh, or I see, to effectively convey that you are paying full attention to what the other party has to say. You see this a lot when you're watching, if you watch any podcasts or anything. There are a lot of podcasters that will, as the guest or the host is talking, they will practice this effective active listening, you'll hear like a lot of mm-hmm, mm-hmm, yes, okay, right? Like all of these small phrases that convey the fact that they're listening, um, but aren't disrupting the conversation, right? They're not disrupting the person's train of thought and not saying, oh, wait, hold on, stop what you're saying. I need to say something here. It's just creating a presence for the other person who is listening, while helping to maintain the fact that the person who is speaking is being listened to. Okay, so that's number 2. And then part 3 is mirroring. So rather than argue with someone, rather than argue an opposite point, or just go straight to disagreement when someone says something that you might not like, you can use this tactic called mirroring in order for them to unearth additional details about what their perspective is on the situation to make sure that you've got the full picture. So rather than argue with someone and try to separate parties, thanks, Adam. Have a good night. Good night's rest. You just listen and then repeat back what they said, and that will prompt them to give you additional details and kind of give you a more holistic perspective when they might have held some information back initially. And it prompts that further discovery. So I actually had an experience with this today, or no, this was Sunday. I was talking to one of my buddies about his relationship with some of his friends, and he was talking to something, and I wasn't sure if I had gotten the full picture from him. And so in order to prompt him to give me some additional details, without like ruining his train of thought, I just repeated back to him the last couple words that he said, and it worked like a charm. It's actually worked every single time I've used it. It's a great tactic. And it's allowed me to, without interrupting the flow of the conversation or the flow of the other person's thought processes, continue to prompt them to provide additional details so I can make sure that I'm fully understanding what they have to say and I'm getting the full picture and their full perspective. Okay, so that's part 3. And there's 6 total parts of active listening that we're going to go over here, and this is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Number 4 is labeling. So giving someone else's feelings a name and identifying how they might feel. This usually is in the form of, it seems like blank, or it seems like you feel blank, or you might be feeling blank. Something along those lines. I generally gravitate towards it seems like. It's a really, really good one, just a super easy go-to as far as that goes. And it works all the time. So when you're doing this, you want to listen to what the person has said and the emotions that they've shared, and then just kind of like try to summarize it in your own words without telling someone that that's how they feel, right? So if someone is expressing some emotions to you, and you want to make sure that you understand those emotions that they're saying correctly, and also make sure that you've got all of the emotions that they're trying to express out of them, so you have the full picture. You can say, it seems like you are feeling blank. Oh, thanks, Cameron. I appreciate that. That means a lot. I have a lot of fun doing these, and I learn a lot trying to teach this stuff to you guys too, so it's been good. And then part 5, so is paraphrasing. So and this ties in with mirroring as well, but it's a bit more of a extensive version of mirroring. So paraphrasing is repeating what the other person says back to you or says to you in your own words. So paraphrase, summarization, basically. This powerfully shows that you really do understand what the other person is saying, and you're not just parroting their concerns or kind of just like in one ear, out the other type of situation. This works really well towards the end of conversations, or where the other party, the person that you're talking to, has shared a lot of details all at once. You can take a second, pause, right? Let that silence sit. Like, that's part 1. Let that silence sit, and then just take some time to examine what they've shared with you in your own mind and try to summarize it back to them. And you can use mirroring, labeling, paraphrasing, and number 6 is summarizing interchangeably. It just depends on the situation at hand. So if you can kind of tell that someone has more to say already, I would say probably mirroring or labeling is a good tactic to use, or not. I mean, you can call it tactic, you can call it tip or trick or whatever you want to call it, but if you can tell that the conversation's not over, then probably use something like mirroring or labeling that is just a little bit of an addition to you or from you, in order to get them to continue talking and continue sharing their emotions and their perspectives. But if you're towards the end of a conversation, paraphrasing or summarization, trying to maybe simplify the bulk of what has been said down, and restating it in your own words is going to be more applicable towards the end. So then I'll read number 6 here. So summarizing. And so a good summary is the combination of re-articulating the meaning of what is said plus the acknowledgement of the emotions underlying that meaning. So summarization is paraphrasing plus labeling. So you want to listen and repeat the world according to blank, the other person that you're talking to. And you need to fully and completely summarize all of the crazy, or maybe not crazy, but just all of the things put together that someone has come up with. And then the answer that you're looking to get when you accurately summarize someone's feelings is "that's right." You want someone to say "that's right," and not "you're right." It's very different, but you want to say "that's right." Because that means that you have summarized both, you've acknowledged the emotions that they have, and you are articulating the meaning of what they said, right? And so you're capturing in your own words and restating the points that they've made and the reason why, like the emotions, the reasons why they've made those points, in order for them to know that you have been actively listening and you've provided with them with a good summary, and they say, "That's right, you understand me." So that's the what. Those are 6 different key ways that you can increase your listening skills, increase active listening, and help you to communicate better with other people. So here's why some people don't apply these, just kind of some roadblocks that some people experience. So This, if you're before that, if you're just joining on, we are going over Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. He was one of the FBI's lead hostage negotiators. Each day I go over a key concept from one of the top self-improvement books in the world, and not only teach what that key concept is, but how you can apply that key concept in your life by giving you a very specific bite-sized actionable habit for you. So today we are talking about active listening, or basically how to be a really, really like world-class listener. And so we just went over those 6 key points, but so some roadblocks that people experience in being good listeners is that generally we listen to reply and not to understand. And I am so guilty of this. But what oftentimes, like in a conversation, especially in an argument, we're so focused on getting our point across that we don't really even take the time or the effort to understand the point of the other person, right? We don't even take the time to try to see their perspective, and to see them for who they are, even though the vast majority of the time doing that will actually allow you to communicate the point you want to make much better and much more effectively. But human nature, it's just a hard thing to overcome. So most people reply to or listen to reply and not to actually understand. That's a roadblock. Another key roadblock is we're all distracted and we let ourselves be distracted, either by our phones, by someone walking by the fact that we're hungry, whatever you want to call it. There are so many stimuli going on in our lives that it's really tough for us to focus and sit down and have a genuine conversation where we focus and listen, and actively listen to another person. And I'm super guilty of this, unfortunately. If I wasn't, my life would be a lot easier. But that's part of the reason why I'm reading this book, is so I can get better at it. This whole live stream is essentially a selfish exercise, because it helps me to get better. But yeah, a lot of times we're just distracted, and so in that distraction, we will attempt to either prematurely summarize what they feel, or summarize what they feel in a way that is off. And so they can tell distinctly that we weren't actually listening to what they said because our summary was bad. And poor active listeners reveal impatience, insecurity, or a generally controlling mindset, and come off as kind of indicating a need to dominate the conversation rather than actually exploring mutual understandings. I've seen a lot of just videos online of this happening in like political situations, where the other side will just be like brutally like battering ram, and just not really listening at all and just trying to force their opinion or their point or their argument down the other side's throat. And this goes both ways across any political aisle. I'm relatively independent, so I don't really care. But this is, in politics, is just a place where I've seen that a lot. And that's not good. That's what I'm saying. That's not good. You want to convey a sense of mutual understanding, and even if you don't have to agree with the other person's point, you don't have to agree with the other person's perspective, but if you want them to see your side at all, it's going to have to be something that their side is going to have to be something that you attempt to understand. And if you don't do these things, you're just going to be stuck in that poor communication loop. So I actually want to share a quick story before we get into the how of just a time that I've applied this. So I live in Phoenix, and I was sitting outside of the ASU Tempe campus today, and I have this sign that says, "What's the number one thing you want to change about yourself right now?" And I had a number of people come up and talk to me, and we chatted about some things that they wanted to change and had some really good discussions. And I was luckily and gratefully able to use a lot of these active listening tips that we've just talked about and covered here today in order to understand the people that I was talking to and their perspective a lot better than I normally would have. Normally, I am definitely like let's just try to fix it as soon as we can and get this thing figured out. And here's what you can try, and here's this other thing you can try, and XYZ, right? Just try to get to just pound my way through down to the bottom of things. But what I found as I was implementing these habits or these different devices for active listening today, I was able to really gain a fuller understanding of people's perspective, which made the conversation flow and become a lot more beneficial. So the Navy SEALs actually have a quote that I try to live by, or a motto or mantra or something. And it's just that slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And so this applies in our conversations, right? And as we're listening, if we are properly active listening, or properly actively listening, then we are going to spend a lot less of our time in a conversation talking and a lot more paying attention to what the other person is saying, ideally. And this might initially seem to you that the conversation is going slow and that it's not approaching the deadline that you want it to in a fast enough way, and you might be emotionally like trying to speed things up. Don't do that, please. Take the time to actively listen, and I know that as you take that time and pause and wait and just listen really genuinely, try to understand the other side's perspective, and practice these tips, that your conversations, your arguments, your debates, whatever you want to, negotiations, whatever you want to call those, are actually going to go a lot smoother, and a lot smoother is a lot faster. Because there's not going to be all this back and forth, and you're not going to have tons of misunderstandings like most people do, myself included, in a lot of our communications, that make the argument something that you have to rehash and rehash and rehash and rehash, because that's not fast. That's really slow. When you could have, if you had listened properly, just solved it the first time in an ideal world. So here's what we're going to do. Here's the habit, okay? So in your first conversation every day, I want you to practice mirroring what someone is saying. So again, just to recap, the mirror is when you repeat back the last 1 to 3 critical words that someone says to you. And it forms a gentle, curious question that kind of gently eases the other side to continue to share information. So if you're talking to someone and they say something like, "I'm feeling overwhelmed by work," you can respond, "Overwhelmed by work?" And it kind of provides that gentle easing into of like, it's essentially saying, "Tell me more," but by repeating the last couple words that they've said, and it seems a lot less abrasive than just like, "Oh, tell me more." Like, that's a command to someone, and people don't usually respond very well to commands. But if you say something like, "Overwhelmed by work," that's not a command, that's a question. right? And so it gently eases them into continuing to share so that you can have a more full understanding of what's going on in their life and be able to help them better as their friend. So, or family, or whatever you want to call it. Uh, so that's the what is mirroring, okay? Repeat back the last three critical, like 1 to 3 words, as and kind of make your voice sound like it's coming off as a gentle, easing question. Then the when, let me back up a little bit. So when you're setting habits and you want a habit that is actually going to stick, it needs to have a specific what, when, and where, and it needs to be so small and so simple and so specific that you can visualize it like you're watching a movie in your head. So, for example, a few years ago I lost some weight, and one of the habits that I implemented in trying to lose that weight was I said, okay, I'm going to drink 12 ounces of water. That's my what. My when was before and after every meal, and my where was while sitting at the dinner table, right? So drink 12 ounces of water before and after every meal while sitting at the dinner table. That, when you say that and you verbalize that, that's a scene that's so specific you can visualize that in your head, right? That's how all of your habits should sound, or more descriptive, if you want them to actually stick. And obviously that doesn't mean necessarily they 100% will stick, but it's going to give you a lot better chance that they will, because it strengthens the neural connections between the action, the place, and the time, right? So when you're specific in all three of those things, the action, the place, and the time, it builds a connection to that time and that place and that action. It builds a connection between the three rather than just one. And so then the where is, obviously these are going to be the best in in-person conversations, or phone calls would work as well. Texting, frankly, I hate texting as a form of communication. It is very, very subpar. If you know anything about just kind of communication generally, you'll know that there's the 7-38-55 rule, which is that only 7% of communication actually makes up or is made up of the words that come out of your mouth. 38% is the way the words come out of your mouth. Like, so whether you sound super excited or whether you sound super sad or you're just like, oh, I hate this, right? Like you're kind of disgusted. The way that the words come out of your mouth, that's 38%. And then 55% of communication is actually your body language. So taking all of that into effect, texting is only the what, right? It's only that 7%, because you don't get any paraverbal work, you don't get any body language or nonverbal work. So it is really easy to miscommunicate, misunderstand, and cause unnecessary emotional damage. Anyways, so yeah, you want to use mirroring as a tool for active listening, either in person with in-person conversations or phone calls. So altogether with the what, the when, and the where, the habit is going to be mirror by repeating the last 1 to 3 critical words of what someone has said in your first in-person conversation every day. And if you don't really have very many in-person conversations, you want to change that to a phone call, you totally can. The framework is adaptable to you and to your life. And then the where is going to be wherever the first time you have a conversation is. Ideally, that's if this is a habit that you're going to choose to implement in your life, try to make it the same place every time. So if you're seeing your partner or significant other or something before you leave for work in the morning, or if the first person you see is maybe the secretary when you get to work and you stop and take a second to chat with them, or maybe a classmate in school, something like that. Just keep track of when those when the first interaction in person that you're having is, and where, and then mark the where and tag it with the when, right? So that's going to depend on the person. But yeah, so that's it. So that's the what is active listening, and the how is by implementing this habit that we've just discussed. If that's something that you want to implement, now you can. And so I would encourage you guys, if this is something that spoke to you, would appreciate you dropping a comment down below. If it's something you think is actually valuable and you're going to use, that would be really cool. If you do practice this, shoot me a DM. I would love to hear how it went. I think that'd be super cool to hear back from you. And if you want some more what's and some more how, some more actionable habits, I built a self-improvement school. So every day at 6 p.m. PST, I get on here and I teach one key concept from a top self-improvement book in the world, and I share how you can implement that key concept by breaking it down into a bite-sized actionable habit. And I put all of these live streams together. I do 6 for each book that I read, and I get a new book every week and go over it with you. This week is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, Negotiating as if your life depended on it, by one of the former FBI's lead hostage negotiators. Super, super great book. I have a link if you want to support the live stream. I have a link over on my Instagram in the highlights area there with a link to the book if you want to buy that and help me out. That would be cool. But yeah, if you want access to the self-improvement school, the link is there in all of my social media platforms and stuff. And so you'll get those 6-part, what's in the community is that you'll get those 6-part video courses. You'll also have access to an accountability system within the community. There's a lot of like-minded people who are obsessed with change like I am, and trying to improve and become better. You'll have access to those people that will also help to keep you accountable. And then 10% of every dollar of your membership fees or otherwise will go towards funding humanitarian trips, member-exclusive humanitarian trips. So if you want to, if any of that sounds interesting to you, or sounds like something that you'd want to be involved in, once we hit 200 members, we are going to be going up to $19 a month. But right now it's just $9, and you can lock that in for life. So again, the link is in my bio if you want to check that out. Whether you're on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, I think that's everywhere I am. Go ahead and check that out and let me know. And we will see you right back here tomorrow at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Keep the change, keep changing. See ya.